The owner of the LA Times has announced that there will be a new editorial board after its self-dissolution just a few weeks ago. This is billionaire owner Patrick Soon-Shiong announcing this weekend that they're going to be doing this to provide more balance in the sort of editorials they do. I'm going to tell you what that's going to look like, but I want you to just think in advance, who do we think is going to be more represented in this new balance? Well, he said, proud that we posted this letter from one of our readers on X. When the president has won the vote of the majority of Americans, then all voices must be heard. Opinions are just that. I will work towards making our paper and media fair and balanced so that all voices are heard and we can respectfully exchange every American's view from left to right to the center. Coming soon, a new editorial board. Trust in media is critical for a strong democracy. So you might recall the LA Times is one of the newspapers that decided not to do the traditional presidential endorsement earlier this year. That led to a number of their highest profile members of the editorial board and others stepping down. And so, yeah, my fear, Garrison, last week that I expressed on the show was that I think there's going to be less critical news coverage of Donald Trump this time around. I think that a lot of these outlets are going to be either scared of strike back from the Trump administration or they're billionaires just trying to curry favor. And I think these sorts of changes are not surprising. You said earlier in the show that the country always runs to the right in the reaction of these sorts of things. And so this is kind of what it looks like, at least for the LA Times. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm reminded of what Tim Snyder talks about in his book on tyranny, where he says, don't obey in advance, right? One of the keys to resisting tyranny is to not obey in advance. And Aaron Rupar, to quote someone else, talks about sane washing, the act of turning these things that are abnormal into something that is normal. And there is a normalization happening of this kind of antisocial, and I do mean antisocial rhetoric that's coming from the political right. This anti-immigrant, anti-neighbor, anti-collective, the thing that is all about me as an individual and what benefits me and makes my egg prices go down, even if that means that some communities are harmed in the process. Like that kind of thinking is very present right now, and it actually concerns me when newsrooms are kind of reconstructing, when they're kind of moving around pieces to benefit this kind of anti-fact kind of rhetoric that's coming out of the Trump campaign and soon to be Trump administration. It's concerning. It's really, really concerning. I will be keeping a close eye on how the LA Times constructs that editorial board, because I'm curious what they mean when they say balanced. Balance isn't necessarily the goal, in my opinion, of journalism. I think the goal of journalism is factual, accurate information. And sometimes that means being entirely against fascism. Sometimes that means being entirely against, insert whoever it is that we need to be reporting against. And so it's concerning to see that word balance being thrown around as if it is a mandate within the journalistic institution.
Yeah, especially coming from like a billionaire guy who could theoretically decide the direction of not just the editorial board, but what their focus is in terms of their investigations, who tweeted, it was an incredible honor dining with President-elect Donald Trump last night. He truly wants to advance health care for all. Is that balanced, buying into his propaganda that he's going to repeal and replace Obamacare? Like, I don't know. I would be concerned as well. I also just think I feel like when the Democrats win, so Obama wins, there's the Tea Party pops up. We have to talk to the right. We have to figure out what they're thinking. When the right wins, we have to talk to the right. We have to figure out I feel like we're always, if the results of the election prove anything, it's the right now has what they want: control of the White House, the Senate, and the House. Maybe they are already being represented pretty well. Maybe we need to talk to the people who have no power whatsoever. That would be one way to do it.
It's a really important point that part of the power of the right in this country is that they are always able to cast themselves as the victims, as this group of people who are constantly pushed outside of the framework of society. But you remember that they now own one of the larger social media platforms out there that as you point out, they have consolidated significant political power, not just on like the federal kind of like national level, but on a state level. Like the majority of our states are governed by Republican leaders. And so it is actually the more powerful party in our political system. And I think it's up to progressives and Democrats to actually point that out. It would not surprise me that if in the first couple of years or even the first couple of months of the Trump administration, they get rid of the ACA, but because of the way the American imagination works, we might forget that. And if those who are interested in progress aren't intentional about keeping those things before the American people and telling the stories of the way that those things are impacting everyday people, those decisions, I think Americans could forget or could kind of downplay. And Republicans, the right, could do the thing they always do and present themselves as the victims. And we find ourselves back in this exact same position in 2 or 4 years.
I mean, hell, maybe they kill the ACA, remind everyone of what it's like when you have no guaranteed coverage. Maybe that is the thing that leads to a groundswell for actual single payer healthcare. I don't know. But if it happens, a lot of people are gonna suffer along the way. I know that. Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.